All right, good morning everyone once again. So this is hope you've learned something from the causes of inflation with the video that I posted before for your first session. Now this for second session we are going to talk about the measures of inflation, right? So now you know what inflation is, what causes inflation. Now we are going to learn how can we help the inflation, what are the measures to actually solve this problem, right? Now again, the learning intentions for this lesson is to understand the consumer price index. Okay, again, success criteria would be that you can explain how inflation is measured, and you can discuss the impact of inflation on different groups of people in a society. Okay, um, now again, as in inflation we did some examples. So again, think of at least 3 items you or your parents have purchased in the past that now cost more to buy. Okay, explain why the price of these items may have increased. Okay, think about that. What are some of the items? The key vocabulary for today is going to be consumer price index. We'll learn this in next few slides. Okay, sorry, my PowerPoint is not working. Yeah, there it is. Now inflation, these are some key terms. So consumer price index, what is it? Deflation, disinflation, hyperinflation, inflation rate, and unit labor costs. I would like you to pause the video here and write them all in your notebooks as well, because these are some of the key terms that you might hear in news or in your day-to-day life. This is something that relates to a business also, right? Now, what is consumer price index? Okay, a measure of the price level in the economy based on the prices of a collection of products designed to reflect the consumption basket of the average consumer. Okay, now it is based, again, it's the collection of products. Okay, what is the cost for those kind of products, okay, that a consumer wants to buy, and what is the price for them? That is the consumer price index. Okay, again, collection of products designed to reflect the consumption basket. So consumption basket is the products that you consume. Okay, again, the collection of all those products. For example, if you go to Kohl's, you buy some grocery items, that is your collection consumption basket of the average consumer. Okay, that is the consumer price index. Deflation, again, a decline in the general price level in the economy. So when the prices of the products go down, then it is called deflation. Okay, when it is in signified by an annual inflation rate below 0%. So if your inflation rate is not going up, rather it is going down from 0%, then it is a negative impact on the economy. Okay, now disinflation, so these are two very different words, deflation and disinflation. Now disinflation is fall in the rate of inflation, example from 5% to 2%. Prices are still rising but at a slower rate. Okay, for example, last year the inflation rate was say 4.1%. we learned in the coffee example in the last video. If the inflation goes down from 4.1% to say 3%, that is your disinflation. So inflation went up and then next year it's going down, that is disinflation. Okay, now hyperinflation, a period of very high rates of inflation, usually leading to loss of confidence in economy's currency. So if there is the inflation rates rise at a higher rates, then it is called hyperinflation. For example, normally 1 to 2 2 to 3% of inflation rate is good for the economy. 1 to 2 up to 3% is good for the economy. Any higher than that is hyperinflation. Okay, so when the rates of inflation are very high, it reduces the value of our currency. For example, the Australian dollar, the value of the Australian dollar will go down. Okay, now inflation rate, the annual rate of change of average price of goods and services. Again, we learned that in the last video. So inflation rate is again the change of average price of goods and services over a period of time. Okay, the unit labor cost, labor is people who work for you, so reflect total labor cost including social security and employers pension, contributions and including the cost of self-employed labor incurred in the production of a unit of economic output. Okay, so unit labor cost is what does it cost you, what is the what are the services you have used to actually produce a product. Okay, so an output, so producing an output, what is your own contribution, how much have you paid for it, what is including the social security and employers pension contributions. Okay, these are some of the key terms. Now, what is consumer price index? Okay, so it is in abbreviation, if you want to write it, it is the CPI. Okay, consumer price index. Now, it is used by the Australian Bureau of Statistics. Okay, it is also called ABS to measure the inflation. Okay, this is how they're going to look at the inflation. For example, if you look at the example on the right hand side, this is the average basket of a consumer. Okay, so basket of goods, and look at what are the rise in the prices, 25%, 22, like what is the, how much is the person spending on these goods, right? 3% on clothing and footwear, 5% on communication, 6% on healthcare, recreation and other 16%, 16% on transport, 22% on food, and 25% on housing. So this is the average spending, what is their income and how they're spending them, where their money is going. Okay, so this is the basket of goods, right? Now again, we're talking about the CPI, consumer price index. It measures the price change of a typical basket of goods, okay, purchased by Australian households. This is done every quarter. Okay, so they look at what people are buying over a period of time, for example in a quarter, and they're going to look at how the prices have gone up, what is the consumer price index, what are the prices consumers were paying before and what are they paying now. Okay, now they look at that every quarter. Okay, now the quarterly change in prices is referred to as inflation rate. It is measured annually, but quarterly change, if the prices are increasing, it is inflation, it is increase in the inflation rate. Okay, this allows us to know the rate at which prices are changing in the economy. Okay, now here is a little bit of, alright, so inflation percentage change. So if in 2010 the inflation was growing at 2.78%, 2011 it was 3%, 2012 again went down to 2%, almost 2.25. 2013 it went up again, 2014 and 2015 it was at about 2%. So having an inflation rate up to 2 to 3% is actually really good for the economy. Okay, now I want you to watch this video before we go any further. So pause the video here, go to the PowerPoint slides and watch the video, and then answer the following questions. If base year CPI is always 100, what will be the CPI for 2019? How much will be the inflation rate? Okay, so this is the formula how you calculate it. Current year's cost of the basket, base year's cost of the basket, so base year is 100 and current year's cost of the basket times 100, so that is your percentage of inflation rate in 2019. Okay, this is how you calculate the inflation rate. Alright, now 2019, what you're going to do is you're going to calculate you're going to try and calculate the inflation rate for 2019 and see how you go. Okay, watch this video first and then calculate it for 2019 with base rate of 100. Okay, now why is measuring inflation important? Okay, why is consumer price index important? All right, now it measures the inflation. It tells the economy if the inflation is going up or down and what they need to do to regulate the economy. Okay, now again, GDP, gross domestic product, it is a very, very important indicator for the economy. It is the amount of goods and services produced in any given period of time, that is the GDP. It's used to improve benefit levels also. Okay, so if you have if there's more GDP, you're paying more taxes, and then it also helps to improve the benefit levels. So if the consumer price index is going up and the salaries are not increasing at that rate, then it is used to pay the benefits also. Okay, Now inflation winners. Alright. Now high income earners, borrowers and importers. So anyone who is a high income earner, borrower or importer, they are going to be winners for the inflation. It is going to work in their favor. Okay. So high income earners, people with jobs whose incomes increase at the same rate or faster than inflation, they're in a positive situation because they can buy the same quantity of product even at a higher price because their salary has increased as well. Okay. Borrowers, rising prices means it may be better to borrow with a fixed interest rate and make the purchase now. Okay. So if the interest rates are increasing when you buy loans, so if you're buying a property or you're borrowing loan for investing into your business, instead of choosing the variable rate, you can borrow the money at fixed interest rate. Okay. Now variable rate is something that changes. If the interest rate is rising, you'll pay higher interest, and if the interest rate goes down, you pay the lower interest. Whereas fixed interest rate is, it doesn't change. Even if the interest go lower or higher, you will still pay the same amount of interest rate. Okay. Now, which means the interest rate does not fluctuate during the fixed rate period of the loan. This allows the borrower to accurately predict their future payments. Okay. So if there is fixed interest, you know what your payment is going to look like for next 4 years or 5 years or 6 years, and you can accordingly plan your future payments also. Okay. Look at your financial budgets. Okay. Now importers, the price of imported goods may be cheaper than the price of goods produced in Australia. So again, we import a lot from China. Most of the products sold in Kmart, Target are all made in China or Bangladesh or India. So if you're importing goods, it may be cheaper because if the inflation rate is increasing, that means we are going to buy from outside, which is going to be cheaper for us because the prices in Australia will be higher. Now, who are on loss when the inflation rises? Low to middle income earners. All right. Now, their income doesn't increase as fast as inflation, like part-time workers, the unemployed, and pensioners. So they might be in the wrong side when the inflation is rising because the income might not increase at the same rate as the inflation is rising. Okay, so then they will have less money to pay for the same amount of products they want to buy. Okay, so they are on the loser side. Bank savers. Okay, so money sitting in the bank may not buy as much as it previously did due to price rises. So if you have savings in your bank account, because of inflation is rising, you may not be able to buy the same amount of goods and services when you spend that money to buy some things. Okay. Now, exporters, as exported goods become more expensive, demand from overseas consumers will fall. Again, because the inflation is rising in Australia, if we want to export goods to other countries, we will be exporting them at higher prices. Then again, the demand will be lower because they won't buy the expensive products. Okay. Now I want you to pause the PowerPoint here and make the notes in your notebook for inflation winners and losers. Okay, it's the same slide explaining the same thing, and I want you also to write down why do you think some people are winners and others losers. Okay, think about some of the ideas. What do you think about that? All right. Now this is a case study on page number 482. Again, this is the same case study we did in our previous video about the increase in the price of the coffee. So 2010 to 2014, the inflation rate is about 4%. What was the inflation rate here? Yep, so it is over 7% in recent years, data derived from Cappuccino Price Index. Okay, so this is the same example again. This is how the inflation prices rise. Now this is just the recap again on inflation. What do you think it is? Okay, look at this picture and you need to send me think about what it says, and you have to send me a recap of what it means from